I know myself to be what Hegel calls reason, and I also know myself to be the negative. And I know as of now that no one understands what this can possibly mean because it's part of the process, this misunderstanding. And I know that the purpose of reason is to become spirit, and that the birth of spirit requires the sacrifice of what reason had formerly identified as the self, which is this um, empirical individual. And cultural Hegelianism is an attempt to unify modern pop culture, Evola's mysticism, and Hegel's philosophy, which includes in itself the non-Hegelian philosophers, which came after Hegel. But more than that, it's an intellectual process whose purpose is to integrate within its own self-thinking thoughts the whole of reality. This is the purpose of cultural Hegelianism, is to complete and achieve absolute idealism, the total intellectual grasping of the real. And I have not much talked about Evola in my videos, but he appears when the time is proper. And I must wage war against my lower self, which is this empirical individual, because there are tendencies within my lower self which resist the birth and the conceptual understanding of spirit. So I don't like this part of my intellectual and spiritual development, but it's necessary, and I must actualize myself as pure spirit, which is something you can't see. It's only by understanding the meaning of my words and by making them your own that you, as a reflection, a mirror image of me, can understand yourself, understand my spiritual nature. So I know that everything that I can find in the world is a reflection of my inner self, which means all the darkness, all the evils in the world, I must make them my own in thought. I must conquer the dark, and this can only be achieved through a spiritual understanding and a spiritual grasping, and it is a process in the development of spirit becoming conscious of itself. So I must negate my lower self, which is the empirical individual that you see, in order that my higher self, which is, as I said in previous videos, the principle of all reality, it is the world spirit at work in the world. It is the higher self living in every you, because we are one spiritual entity, and in order to give birth to spirit, and giving birth is painful, I must, as an empirical individual, go through a process of self-negation. I must go through the darkness, and by my inner light, I must illuminate the dark and conquer the dark, and spiritualize myself and the world. And it's the most difficult task. And as of now, I will try my best to enter into a spiritual mode, which is a reflection of the logos. I will try to express with words and thoughts and logical categories the essence of the world and my own essence, and I know that this empirical me, the body in which reside my real self, which is spirit, will resist and will sink into his lower tendencies, and this struggle that I have within myself, this war against the self. It's what the Muslim call the jihad, not by an external act of war, but by waging war against your lower nature and try to transcend your lower self and to elevate yourself to spirituality. And the metaphysics of war is not a war against the other, because when you evolve spiritually, you understand that the other is always a reflection of the self. So by waging war against the other, you are waging war indirectly against yourself. So the only path of liberation is to transcend your lower self. I must, as a thinking entity, I must transcend my lower self, and I must let the word of philosophical truth speak through me. I must become the passive receptacle of the philosophical world and the eternal logical and spiritual idea. And this is the most difficult, because and that's an alchemical process, because the higher truths that I express are mediated, and they are corrupted, and they are tainted by the limitations of my lower self. So I can try my best to purify my thoughts, but it means that I must negate my empirical selfhood by rejecting as much as I can every opinion, every personal influence, um, um, every tainted manifestation of my lower self, and I must let the spirit in me express itself fully. And what I can ask for the viewers of this video is, I will not ask them anything other than what I ask to myself, namely, when you hear me talk, don't look at this empirical me, but try to think about the meaning of my words and the ideas that I express, and try not to pay attention to the vehicle, and try only to grasp in mind and in spirit what I express. And I must do myself this same task, which is the most difficult. I must recognize in the the expressions of spirit and of mind, of this empirical me that I identify still as my real self, partly not my real self, my empirical self, but which is part of my sense of self identity. But it's a mistake that I make, and I must recognize the higher truth that I am capable of expressing in my best moments as being an exteriorization and a reflection of my higher self. And I must negate my lower self, which is what Hegel calls the negation of the negative, in order that my higher self might shine and illuminate itself and illuminate others and illuminate the world. So I am in a state of struggle against myself, against the both aspects of myself, the lower and the higher, and this is the most difficult. And I know that my lower self will resist in the process and will try to maintain its identity and its existence, but it must be aufgehoben, as Hegel says. And yeah, so from now on, I will, to the best of my abilities as a mixed individual between the lower earthly existence and the higher spiritual existence, I will try to, by an alchemical process, to purify myself and to let truth speak through me at the expense of this empirical me, because truth is not personal. Truth is universal. It is the truth is the same for everyone. So I will try um, to leave aside as much as possible, knowing that it's the most difficult thing, the personal aspect, and to let the impersonal. I will try to become the medium of spiritual truth, and I know that I will encounter the dark and the negative, which is only a reflection of my own darkness and my own negativity. But from now on, I will try to enter a spiritual mode, and I will try to reveal to others their own spiritual nature. And yeah,